Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today's discussion, Brown Bag, on Florida's experiments in public transportation, innovation, adaptation, planning for climate change. It's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Zhongrui Peng, who will give us the discussion today. He is a professor of urban and regional planning and director of Adapt. Maybe you want to explain Adapt as well. But this is the International Center for Adaptation, Planning and Design at the College of Design, Construction and Planning in University of Florida. Just want to mention one other thing, three main areas of your research. Sustainable and resilient transport planning, very much aligned with ADB's goals and supporting our governments for sustainable transport. Adaptation planning for climate change, very important area, particularly in our road subsector assistance. I think we'll hear about that in the discussion today. And a new area that we're hoping to explore, urban planning with AI, very interesting. Over to you, please, Doctor.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, James, for the good introduction. I also want to thank my student, Lian, for inviting me to come to Asian Development Bank. This is my first time come to ADB, and also first time come to Philippines. And yesterday I had a wonderful time talking with several colleagues here, including James and Chenchen and Kajono, about the work that you have been doing. It seems like it's very in line with what I have been doing. So I want to share. Okay. Share some of my thoughts on some of these topics. And at start, let's talk about the Adapt Center, which was established in 2010. The Adapt was established based on the observation at that time, like the serious issues among Florida's coast community that facing climate change related sea level rise, storm surge. So I thought, as a planner, so we have to plan our city 50 years ahead. So we should be responsible to establish a research center and doing some in-depth research how we're going to adapt, because we cannot change the climate and how we can adapt. So over the years, we have done lots of work in three major areas. One is adaptation planning and design to climate change, which I'm going to talk more about later on. Another one is transportation planning that I have been working on that since my PhD. And then the recent work on the urban planning AI, I will explain a little bit. So those three areas, adaptation planning, design to climate change, including trying to understand vulnerability assessment of sea level rise and hurricanes and extreme precipitation. That's a three climate change related issue in Florida. And we are dealing with climate action plan, which dealing with climate mitigation and climate adaptation. And recently we are focused more on like climate gentrification, because that's the consequences of climate change. On the transportation planning side, we mainly focus on public transportation planning and the system of the optimization. Transportation technologies, including microtransit, micromobility, electrification, autonomous vehicles, and the impacts on travel behaviors, transportation system, and the environment and the community. So we have been doing lots of work in this area for the last 30 years. And the last one is urban planning, artificial intelligence, trying to explore the impacts of AI on urban planning and transportation. We have been experiment with AI-enabled urban planning automation to trying to automate some of the tasks that in the planning and decision-making process. So those are the three focus areas of Adapt. Today, I want to mainly focus on some of the case or Florida experiment in public transportation innovation and also adaptation to sea level rise in Florida. So we have facing two big problems. One is decline bus ridership. This is unique to United States, as you can see from even from July 2013 to July 2018, and the monthly ridership loss is increased dramatically. Yeah. So Florida, you lost about 5 million ridership a month, and nationally 50 million ridership a month. So this is the serious issue, and what we can do about it. And Florida has experimented some of the experiments. And another issue is the sea level rise. As you can see here, from 1990 to 2000, right now this is real-time data. 2024, the sea level steadily increased 100 millimeters over only like 30 years, less than 30 years. So it's a very significant increase over the years. This is NASA's data. So what we should do, what we can do, what can we do to reverse the trend of bus ridership, and also how we adapt to climate change? So I want to show you some of the cases that Florida is doing, and see whether it works or not. The first case is trying to integrate transportation network companies with public transportation system. So the idea here is we have lots of transportation network companies like Uber, Lyft, DiDi, or here is Grab, right? And the ridership, as you see from the screen, is very significant. Uber 9.4 billion riders in only 1 year, and 10 billion in DiDi in China. So in the literature, there are lots of discussion about the relationship. Some say the TNC and public transit relationship is complementary to each other, that one increase leads to another increase, and the other says is substitutive. They are competing with each other. So in order to avoid the competition, in United States, there are over 60 transit agencies have established so-called public-private partnership with TNC. So trying to establish some connection with the TNC, work with the TNC to enhance transit ridership. So in Florida, we have a county called Pinellas County that's very close to Tampa. They have established a partnership in 2016. It's called Direct Connect. And for those of you who don't know the locations, that this is the United States, Florida, and then Pinellas County. The Pinellas County is close to 1 million population, 710 kilometers, but most of them commuting by car, like 73.5%. So the establishment of the Direct Connect is starting from 2016. They give like a voucher up to $5, and then once you have use the voucher, use the Uber to drive to a designated stop, you'll get a discount. And then once you have that discount, you take the Uber, go to the designated 26 stations. Then you take the bus for free. So that's how it works. And we were asked by the Florida DOT to evaluate this program. So those are the locations of the 26 designated locations. So they want to ask, basically whether the program fulfill its original goal. So the original goal is one is to promote the use of public transit service and regain bus ridership by providing subsidized Uber connection. also in trying to address the first mile, last mile challenges by skipping some of the walk to from bus stop, right? So that's the intention. And so our task is to evaluate this. So we wanted to do actually two things. One is, does the direct connect program have a positive or negative impact on bus ridership at the system level? And also they wanted to know what at the individual bus stop level to see if there is any connections. So we did some thinking about this, how to do this, because we have all the data. So we're using the panel data models, regression, discontinuity models, the community surveys. I don't want to get into the details, but the major findings we found is first, system level, the direct connect program overall Uber trip has a positive impact on the bus ridership during the weekdays. But the relationship is weak. It's not that strong. Second is the weekend does not observe any kind of significant impact. So that's the first finding. Second is for other factors like employment density have a positive impact, whereas the median household income have a negative impact, and also there's no surprise high frequency of bus increased bus ridership, and commuting to work with the primary passenger of direct connect service, so it does not work in the weekend, only work in the weekdays, and only work in certain bus stop, not all the bus stop works. So this is, we did the bus level stop analysis. So as you can see here, only the 4 bus stop here, those are 4 bus stop in the red, have a significant positive impact. The others either no impact or negative impact. So the findings is that at the stop level, it's similar to the system level. It's only work on certain stops, only working on weekdays, but does not work on the weekend. And we also did lots of surveys, which I don't have time to go through. We asked them, why do you use it? When do you use it? Why do you not use it? And those there's no, surprise here. This is the works, original destinations, work, home, retail stores, what we also asked, what if there is no such program? What are the alternatives? Like some people are using Uber, public bus, and walk, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the first experiment in Tampa. So the experiment is still going on, and based on evaluations, they still want to continue the program because the system level seems like a beneficial to have this partnership. Second experiment is called ride hailing as public transport service. So here is a little different. This is in downtown Tampa. We have it's called micro transit. Basically, they provide a Grab kind of vehicles. They have different kind of vehicles. You have like 4 people vehicles, 5, 6, and 8, and 10 shuttles. So basically, they designate a geo-fenced area in downtown areas. If you are living this area, you want to go from one place to another, you're just using a smartphone, and then the vehicle come to pick it up and send it to your destination for free. Okay. So all the starting from 2016 and ended in 2019, just before the COVID. So they spent about $800,000, $777,000 per year. They have the breakdown of the budget. So the question is, we will ask you to do an evaluation of this program. Is it cost effective? And how does it compare with the fixed route transit service? They ask the question, what if we have a fixed route service? Which one is better? right? So this is what we're trying to do. Since there's no fixed rod, we cannot have like a ready access, ready comparison. So we have to generate a fixed rod. So we're using, since we have lots of OD data, we have 3 years, 4 years of data. So we're using the AI-based fixed rod planning and automation, so it's generated those. And then we compare the effect of ride hailing service and the fixed bus service. So this is a little detail about how we using AI to generate the fixed rods. I don't want to get into the details. It's actually, this is by itself is lots of innovation because previously we generated the rod and because that's my dissertation. So I know exactly what we did in the past. But with the AI, this is actually a lot more accurate and efficient. So this is the model. For those who are inclined to know more math, you can get to math, paper. So we also said, evaluation. So what kind of criteria do we use? So those are the 4 kind of evaluation. So firstly, from passenger point of view, what is the average waiting time? What is travel time reduction ratio compared to the fixed rod and the demand responsive service? For the society, we want to say the total saving time value for the society and how many people we serve. So that's called the demand service ratio. And from the operator point of view, is what is the cost benefit from the operator and what is the cost per ridership, right? And from an environment point of view, what is the total GHG emission and the GHG emission reductions. So those are the criteria that we use. Then this is the results. So the first column here is called downtown ride hailing service. Basically, it's a demand responsive. Second is you have like a one bus. The second is based on the OD flow survey, you have 2 buses. And then the third one is the downtown transit design. They designed this themselves. So basically, the first one is the current operation. Total ridership is 118,000. And this, if you have 1 bus route, is dropped to 28,000. And if you have 2 bus routes, increase a little bit. And if you have another 2 bus routes, 20. So basically, the ridership is dropped significantly. But the budget here is a little high for the downtown ride sharing service. Since you only have like 1 bus, you have 170,000. And if you have 2 buses, double that. And the cost per ridership is $7.4 per person. And with 1 bus is 6.14. And so this you get the idea. And then with the coverage here is like we have coverage is 100% demand. And if you have the fixed rod, you only cover a very small portion of the demand, right? So this is very convincing, like which bus service is better. Then we also compare to other kind of criteria like a time reduction ratio, demand service, benefit cost ratio, GHG reduction. And I'm not going into the details about this. And then we said, well, what if we have, so there are 3 kind of we did a lot of simulations on the different kind of scenarios. So we have like all demand service and all on the fixed rod, or we have like a combination of all demand service and fixed rod. As you can see here, regardless criteria, what kind of criteria, like on demand service is always better than fixed rod, right? Always. And the hybrid is in between. Okay. And so another question we ask is, this is data based on downtown Tampa. Does it apply to other areas? So we say, well, does it apply to other cities who have totally different population and the density and employment, right? So we did lots of simulations. That's one key advantage of AI is you can do millions of simulations. So in the end, we found that a key number is like a demand is 1,000 per day per square mile. So in other words, if you have a demand over 1,000 per day per square miles, then your fixed rod is more efficient. If you're less than that, then on-demand service is more efficient. So this is very interesting. This is the demand. This is the conclusion. It's a very interesting study that showing, first of all, that on-demand service is actually serving doing a much good service than the fixed rod. But then you have to spend more money on it. You save more people. But if you have a high demand in a high density area, then you probably have to stick with the on-demand fixed rod service. And also, we made this as a software that you can, if you have the data, you can plug the number from other cities and see the results. So that's the second experiment. And third one is called autonomous shuttle service. And again, this is another experiment. The idea here is this is an autonomous shuttle. It's very small. It's a 10 passenger shuttles. It's all autonomous. Okay, and but the speed is low. Speed is only 24 kilometers per hour. It's very slow. And the primary advantage is to be like an improve mobility, reduce driving, and save labor costs, and explore new technology. So there is a community called Lake Nora. It's in the suburb of Orlando, close to Orlando Airport. So there is a developer to develop that areas, and he introduced autonomous shuttle. So the shuttle runs from the neighborhood, from the oldest neighborhood, and go to the town center. They have the activity town centers. And this town is a new town with a high income. Median household income is 101K. Orlando average is about 59K. And most of our, have high education levels. Graduate degree is more than half. Orlando is 11%, right? So they have operated for 4 years. It's continued every day operate. And with any cost, 10 stop, 2 kilometers road, and it's free for residents to use. So what we're trying to do is to answer 3 questions. One is autonomous shuttle an effective public transit mode? Second is why do people accept this new transportation mode and technology? And the third one is what are the critical factors that influence people's intention to use an autonomous shuttle in American suburban context? So those are the 3 research goals. We're trying to seek an answer to it. So based on the literature, we also found that there are 6 factors that affect people's acceptance of new technology. One is perceived ease of use. Second is perceived usefulness and trust on safety and perceived on reliability in inclement weather and personal innovativeness and environment awareness. So we want to find out, we did a survey and we find out from the users what caused them to accept those new technologies. So we did a structured equation modeling. And this is how the model ran. I don't want to get to the details. So basically, we wanted to see how those factors affect the intention to use. And this is the results. So the findings we found is there are 2 factors, the critical factors. One is perceived ease of use, whether how easy to use. Second is how useful it is. Are the 2 critical factors that lead to intention to use. And environmentally conscious residents are more likely to use it because the AV is a electrical shuttle. But the AV shuttle in Lake Nona only provides service inside the neighborhood. It's only 2 kilometers, right? So many residents thought its usefulness was limited. So it's not very useful for them. 2 kilometers, you can easily use bicycle or even walk. And similarly, the users of the AV shuttle service are reliable and safe, but this factor do not lead to more usage. So again, 2 critical factor is easy of use and useful, how useful it is. And then we also ask, how, what factors will be very important to increase the redshift. So there are 2 critical ones. One is increase the speed. Right now the speed is too low. And also have a smartphone app so that they can have on-demand service, because right now it's all fixed route. So they are doing that right now, so this is actually interesting. So the conclusion we got is here: can autonomous shuttle be an effective public transport? We said we are not there yet because the speed is slow. But when the speed is high, it's potentially in the suburb settings, it potentially be a good, effective public transportation mode. The final experiment is adaptation planning for sea level rise. We have been doing this for quite a while. I will see, for those who are not familiar with Florida, to see what happened, what is going on here. This is the video I took, and it's on a sunny day. It's on Am Beach, and this is called in the high tide areas, the king tide. So in the king tide, there's no storm, okay, no rain, no precipitation, but the water are getting into the road, right? So this is one example, and this is another. So the bus run on a sunny day on the water. Again, the water comes from the ocean. It's a salty water, and you can see that it's causing real problems. And this is on the road. Some of the neighborhood also inundated. So that means some of the water getting into people's house. Okay. So this is climate change. It's not to the future. It's current. It's affecting our life right now. So you can see this. So the question is, what can we do about it? It's here, right? What can we do? So we did some study, and we have been doing this study for the last more than 10 years. So I'll give you an overview about what Florida is doing, and then this is the consequences. There are other consequences like come from the storm every year. For people who are familiar with Florida, we have a hurricane. Every hurricane, we have lots of problems to the road. And this is translation infrastructure. Traditionally we built around the coast. Now look at this, right? If you look at the newspapers every year, we have roads like this. So what are we going to do about it? Florida DOT is very concerned about how to maintain the mobility and accessibility of the local residents. And this is lots of things in the deep down, because we spend millions, and sometimes billions of dollars just to repave this road. But we cannot do it forever, right? So what we can do? We have to pay back. All right. So this is, if you look at it from a research point of view, for looking for trend, urban planning and adaptation, if you do the search, it's starting from 2015. It's only very few. From 1970 to 2014, it's only 13% of papers. But from 2019 to 2023, it's 67%. So it's getting very serious in terms of literature and in terms of research. So Florida actually take the lead in these areas. So starting from legislatures, so Florida passed 3 laws. In 2020, we passed a law. It's called Civil Rights Impact Projection Study. So the idea here is for any new construction that public finance, you have to go through a civil rights impact study, projection study, to make sure that your new construction will not be impacted by the civil rights. You know, the idea is very simple, right? If you know the construction will be inundated in the sea, why do you want to build it in the first place, right? So it makes sense. But there was no law before that, so many people still do it. But now this is a new law. The second is in 2021. It's called the Resilient Florida Program. That program law require every single city and county do a resilience plan. So every city and county has to do it, and the resilience Florida program provided funding about like 500 million a year to help those local community to do this resilience plan. And then in 2023, we passed another law. It's called the Flooding and Civil Rights Vulnerability Studies. In this law, we actually provide the state authority a mechanism to have legal action against those who do not follow the law. So, for example, in 2022, there's no mechanism to say you have to do it, but what if you don't, right? There's no mechanism say if you don't, there's no legal action. But then in 2023, it's established those legal action. So this is a continuation of dealing with it. So this is the good, those are the laws provide a foundation for us. And they for us, this is probably many of you know, for adaptation, there are 4 kind of adaptation. One is trying to avoid, just say that's Florida law says if you know it's vulnerable, then don't build, don't construct, right? Second is protection. You're using different engineer methods to protect property, protect city. And the third one is accommodation. So you protect the important things and accommodate the flood. And the fourth one is if you cannot do anything to protect, accommodate, then retreat. So the protection is mainly there are 2 ways to do it. One is using engineering solutions. So basically you have like seawalls, you have living shorelines to do protection. And so these are some examples of engineering-based solution, like seawalls, dikes, levees. Those are real pictures in Florida. So the seawalls, first one, seawalls, you build a seawall so that you protect the properties, and then you build a dikes and levees to channel the water. Right? And the third one, you build a breakwater so that you can reduce the damage from the waves. And then you have this is a construction. You have the build the seawalls. This is construction on Miami. They build lots of seawalls in Miami, trying to protect the water from erosion into the city. But there are some issues here. I mentioned that in with some of the conversation yesterday. The Florida's geology, the rocks underneath is called a sandstone. Sandstone is porous, so that means that even though you build a seawall to protect the water, but the water can go through underneath the seawalls, because underneath the seawall is a rock. The rock is porous, so the water underneath for the sandstone, and then come out on the other side, right? So that's a limitation. And so in order to do that, they have to do inside the seawalls to do two things. One is you elevate the road, elevate the street by 2 feet. So this is a picture of they're actually doing the elevation, elevated the road by 2 feet, so that the road is not inundated, right? No road is not flooded. But then still the water is still there, right? And because the sea level is high, the groundwater is high. So in order to do that, they have to build the pump. So the second picture here is the pump station. So they build lots of pump, constantly pump the water out, right? So this is how they're dealing with that right now. And the question is, who is going to pay for it? How long does it last, right? Because the sea level will continue to rise, and you have to continue to build the seawall. The seawall is only lasts for 20, 30 years, and then every 20, 30 years you have to rebuild it. So this is like, temporary solutions, right? So this is like engineering. Of course, it's easy way to fix, but they have lots of problems. So that's lead to, it's called a natural-based solutions. Natural-based solutions, a living shoreline is a good example. So you're using natural materials, sometimes in combination with like hard shoreline structures like seawalls or breakwater. And you want to stabilize the entry space, tributaries and other sheltered shorelines. So basically, this is sometimes the most effective way is the combination of engineering solution with the natural-based solutions. Living shoreline, Florida have done this a lot, spent lots of money to build the living shorelines. In some cases, actually, it's very effective. So those are some examples. What is the effective living shoreline it is? So the living shorelines basically provide a buffer between the built environment and the sea, ocean. So the second is accommodation. Basically, accommodation here is like we protect the most important ones, like raise the road, raise the houses, and using materials that increase the strength of the development. Building structure that easily be relocated when they become threatened, right? And also you have like a land use designation, you change the zoning, you change the land use, you increase the building code. So those are the accommodation strategies. So for example, these are examples here. Like raise the expensive stuff. We raise the HVAC systems and elevate the houses. Actually, in Florida, many people are doing that. They're doing that by themselves. So that's what we call the self-adaptation. Self-adaptation. I will mention that in a little bit later on. This is there are lots of pros and cons with this. It's a temporary solution, but you have to have money in order to do that. So, like I say, for example, here, there are lots of self-protection, self-adaptation in Florida right now, but rich people, you can see the price. And then it's, if you're poor, you cannot do it, right? And the last one is managed retreat. So this is very controversial, very controversial. We typically, that's a last resort. Basically, is you don't want to bring up that topic in a community meeting. They don't like that. But sometimes you have to do. You have to do. I will later on talk about. These are some examples. This is one example in New Zealand. They actually have to. It's a mandatory resettlement of communities. Move all the whole community to high ground because there's no other solution. And there's also some natural-based solution for retreat, like a buffer zone, habitat restorations, management alignment, green corridors, and so on and so forth. So when to retreat, this is a very hard very difficult topic. So we have to be very cautious. You need to do lots of risk assessment, make sure there's no other way to get around it. Do lots of cost benefit analysis, and the basic way to do that is based on market forces rather than you force people to move, right? So I don't want to repeat this here. And I want to show you some of the examples that we did. So we did a study in Miami. We trying to understand how different agents behave. So we are looking at the interactions between government, the residents, and the insurance to see those three. It's very interesting to observe the behaviors. They are watching each other, right? If the government propose something, and then the residents respond to that policy changes. And the insurance also respond to the policy changes and the residents, because it's like a game, like a classical game theory. It's like what I'll do based on what you do, right? And so we were trying to use an agent-based model to simulate what if the government do something. What if you increase the insurance risk base? What if you encourage people to do self-adaptation, and how that factor into the all different kind of scenarios, right? So we did agent-based models, and we collect all the data in Miami on each household. So in Miami, we collect all detailed household data, so including household income, whether they buy insurance or not, what kind of insurance they pay, how much they pay, what's the value of the house, and whether they have they're located in different flooding vulnerability zones, right? And we also have data about the elevations, the zoning, and everything. So we have social demographic, we have household income, household data, and we have land use data. We also have elevation data of each parcel. So this is a very big data set. So we did build a model. I don't want to get into the model for some of you on the audience know agent-based models. But the conclusion is very interesting. Okay. So we found that the risk-based flood insurance policy could ultimately reduce community flood damage, right? But it will decrease motivation to purchase flood insurance, because the flood risk-based flood insurance is very expensive. Basically, the risk-based flood insurance policy is based on the risk. If you're living in the low-lying areas, if you are facing the ocean, you have high risk, then you pay more, much higher insurance premium. Where if you're in the highland areas, then you pay more, right? So that's the market force here. But then that will probably reduce the motivation for people to live too close to the coast area, take the high risk. But on the other hand, then some people say, well, I don't want to buy it, right? Or say, I cannot afford it. So some low-income people, they cannot afford it. So in this case, there will be some inequality, and then we're arguing sometimes the government have to step in, provide some kind of income compensation for those low-income residents. We also found that most importantly, that public flood mitigation policy is important in affecting community resilience. In the short run, if you build seawalls for the city, then that will create a sense of security for the residents. So the resident feels safe, and in the short run, probably make the community more resilient. But in the long run, it will cause catastrophic damage. Because in the long run, if you provide public flood mitigation, like seawalls, then you encourage residents move in from other places. They said, well, it's safe because we are protected by seawalls. and then reduce the motivation for self-adaptation. So the resident living there, I said, well, I don't want to do any self-adaptation. And the insurance company says, well, now we have seawall, we can reduce the insurance premium, and then you attract more people coming in to take a risk. But what if there's a catastrophic hurricane coming in, and what if the seawall damage? And then you will cause catastrophic damage to the whole community. So in the long run, it's not going to work because the sea level continues to rise and hurricane continues getting worse. So that is a very interesting findings from this. So in conclusion, that we found that the risk from climate change is real, but the amount of risk and the impact is uncertain and is location-based. So that is making it challenging right now to convince people to take actions because the risk amount and the impact is very uncertain. Adaptation policy, we have an important impact of residents' risk perception and adaptation behaviors and insurance response. That understand the stakeholder response and behavior is very important for researchers as well as for decision makers. And the risk and adaptation have differentiated impact on different locations and social groups. Thus, achieving climate justice is essential to promote equitable resilience. So with that, I'll quickly go, what we have been doing. So welcome some questions, comments, and interactions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fong. Professor Fong has given a very informative and interesting presentation. So we have about 10 minutes left. So if you have questions, you can raise your hand or just type in the box in the QA box. Oh, we have 3 questions. The first one, I think it is related to the car hauling, the ride hauling system. The question is, does the on-demand work if only one person needs a ride? Or does it need a larger number of people to justify a vehicle?
Okay, so it depends on the request. So if the request is only one person going to a destination, there's no shared possibility, just one person, one passenger. If there are lots of people sharing, then there will be a shuttle service. So the app actually is very smart, so they can compile the request and compile the destination as well.
Okay, so it does means that if, sorry, I didn't read the proof.
Okay.
So it means that if one single person waiting, it won't end up waiting for a long time.
Right, yes.
Okay. Thank you. And the second question is, living shorelines might prevent wave damage, but they cannot stop sea level rise. Is it possible to learn from the history of the Netherlands, where much of the country is below sea level, but kept it dry?
Yes. Yeah, actually, there's several expert group from the Netherlands working in Florida for the last 40 years. So they have tried many different ways, including some of the combination of engineering and the living shoreline and biological and bioengineering solutions. So yes, they are working on that. I think they have been done lots of work and very effective. I have not shared lots of them here, but they have been working on it.
Okay, thank you. We have a third question that is on what is the private sector's role in Florida's climate change actions?
Okay. There's no electricity. Private sectors, they have not played a very active role at the state level, but they have been very active in doing self-adaptation. So let's say, for example, the airport, Disney, and those large firms, they have been doing lots of good work in terms of protecting properties, doing self-protection or self-adaptations.
Okay, thank you. So is there any other questions online? If not, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Mr. Jamie.
a sort of observation and question as well. I think this is really important for our work in two areas. One is the need for integration when we're doing urban transport. And the second one is obviously the resilience side. But on the integration, I guess this is part of the question. You were looking at a US example, but different types of transport integration are very important here. Paratransit or tuk-tuks, jeepneys, tricycle, motorbike sharing, substitute that with the Uber type. That's the thing.
Yes.
And the type, sorry, the question was, when you looked at one bus route and two bus routes, you didn't show much of a network effect because the increase was very small. And I guess in a way that's right, because people tend not to use two buses, but when it's a metro system, they quite often use two lines. But I
Yes.
don't know whether that seems right, but it also seems wrong in a way that you would have thought the network wider. But I think when we do big metros, we often think about the feed of buses, but we tend not to think about the paratransit or the popular transport, but ensuring we're doing all of those. And I would also add on-demand type services, if we're pushing to get universal access, maybe those cost differentials like Singapore that provides its universal access through on-demand hailing, rather than the huge additional costs of public transport being universal access. So there may be different models or different types of transport that fit. So the question was on those network effects. What did you find those in the example that you showed it with one route, two routes as well?
Yeah. So there are very limited amount of bus route in downtown Tampa. They only have like a one streetcar. You can stop the recording. The network effect, yes, is important, but the current network is very limited. So it's only have a few lines there in the downtown areas.
Okay, this question from Simon. You gather that Florida is quite flat and low level. Is there enough room for all those at sea level to retreat to higher ground, or will it be necessary to construct a new higher ground in the same way that the road in Miami is being elevated?
Okay. Yes, you're right. The whole Florida is not high. So if you think about it, we have like a statewide inundation map that looks actually scary. So this is a serious discussion, like what we can do about that. We managing the retreat obviously is inevitable discussion that we have for. So we did some survey on another study and asked the residents who are in low-lying areas who have experienced constant flooding, and we asked them, what would you do if the city will continue rising, right? So many of them says, I don't do anything, and we expect somebody will build the seawalls here for us. And some others say that they want to move to a high ground, but not too far from here. We want to stay in the same country. We don't want to move to another state. So this is a tough issue. Like people don't want to give up the lifestyle in the coast living. The coast area is still expensive. Right now, like after each hurricane, some of the coast areas property is damaged severely, and so as soon as after hurricane, there are lots of real estate investors call the property owners, hey, now you have the insurance, and we want to buy a property, and there are lots of people want to go there, real estate developers, they want to go there, buy the properties and then rebuild. So it's very difficult to say that this is no longer a viable choice to living in the coastal areas. At least not, we are not there yet. There are some, we observe some climate migration or gentrification. Is that some people who are living in the coastal areas, especially the housing, are constantly get flooded. Those people actually taking some actions, move, sell the house and move to inland. Yeah, it's gradually, we're seeing that trend, but it's small at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions online?
Cool. Has you got another one?
No.
I've got a question on when is it time to retreat?
Yeah.
Because I remember we have a clean energy forum every year.
Mm.
And there was a speaker a few years back saying, what's wrong with these transport people? Vietnam floods, why are they building roads and railways along the coast?
Mm.
And the audience went, yeah, brilliant suggestion, but Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi and Hue and all the other cities, Da Nang, they're all along the coast. So you don't build, and we were discussing yesterday, but that the complexity of the issue, and as you pointed out, with the 4 or 5 considerations and the sort of managed retreat with other market forces.
Yeah.
But we need to be careful who we're speaking to, because sometimes people don't understand the complexity because they don't know the coastal road.
Right.
But where you're serving an empty city and an empty city that's not yet been located, you can't build something for demand that's not yet there.
Right.
And so but while at the moment we're sort of doing these climate proofing projects or climate resilient, disaster resilient futures of networks, but we need to put it in a language to make sure that non-transport people understand those issues and the added complexity that gets demonstrated very well in the Florida example.
Right. Yeah, yesterday we talked about, I think this is a good point, is like we have to think about building the road that can last for 50 or at least 100 years. Right? So we have to take those factors in, make those decisions, rather than just build the road and then it's flooded every 5 years or 5 years later. Makes no sense.
Okay, I think it is about the time. We're right on time. Thank you everyone for participating in the presentation today, and thank you Professor Pong for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, Jim, for the opening remarks. And this is webinar from the Green Road webinar series, and we have the next one, which it will be on October 29th. So we thank you all for your participation today and hope you will join the future series. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.